Well, I think a way that a church can show love of community and become a fully engaged partner in that community is really to take their faith outside of the walls of the church and look for opportunities to partner with different organizations, our schools, helping our young people, strengthening our families, lifting people up, working with the city on initiatives that they know improve the quality of life in the community, and do those things that unite us and bring them together. That the way that we move forward is through that type of relationship. And so, we're excited to be able to partner with our faith-based communities.
We need to start looking at prevention. You need to educate yourself on what our community looks like, what the vulnerable youth and family look like in our community, and then you take your collective wisdom back and come up with some proposals on what you can do. Even if a church just does a small part, do a small part well. I mean, there was a church last weekend that had a huge outreach. They had hundreds and hundreds of people. They invited open letters, come to a cookout, come to, planning yourself in a neighborhood and then reaching out to the people of the neighborhood, making sure your doors are open and accepting, not to be scared off by maybe kids that are dressed different or families that don't look like the traditional families that would be in your church.
If a church wants to get started in loving their community, it's important that they understand that community. And that's going to mean they're going to have to get out of the pews. Perception, an individual's perception, is their reality. If you don't have vast knowledge of a community, its wants, its needs, its hurts, it's very difficult for you to be effective in addressing those needs or those hurts. It'd be very difficult for one person to go out and learn or grasp that knowledge, pull in all of that information. That's why it's important, again, that much like we don't go it alone in law enforcement, we expect our citizens to be involved. Church members need to understand they don't have to go it alone. They can come to law enforcement. We can point them to hot spots where there's activity that maybe, again, having some sort of an athletic program or an after-school program will give kids a reason to stay in school. That's just a small example. But again, it's important that we share that information. It may even mean that law enforcement officers are going to have to take an opportunity to meet with church leaders and address them, and again, have a real talk, if you will, about what's going on in the community.
Pretty much what skaters are looking for in a church is, I know from experience that I get tired of people trying to get Christ through me without knowing me. And I find it a lot easier to know somebody a lot. And I've been going to this church for about 9 years now, so I've gotten to know a lot of these pastor interns and youth leaders and families and stuff. So, and it's a lot easier when you know them to really believe what they're saying, because you know that they're believing in it and you know their life and that they're not just cheating on it. And how church can help skaters is, I remember telling myself a while ago that I don't need God. But no matter how much we say that, it's wrong. I keep going back because I do something wrong and I know I need Jesus back. And church can help skaters by pretty much reaching out, becoming their friend first, not just going straight, you need to be saved. But pretty much leading up to that, that's what we really like. That's what Paul Anderson did. Paul Anderson got to know each and every one of us, our names, and that he'd just sit down and talk with, each of us individually, and that was really cool. So he got to know, our individual likes and dislikes, and I think that helped him actually minister to us easier. So we learned easier of the Bible and what the Bible had to say, because he knew how to get it through to us.
A community-focused church means that it's a church that reaches out to those of us here at home. Many churches serve missions abroad, and that's wonderful and necessary. But when we found this church and saw that they offered ministries here to address the needs of kids and families, it really was a wow factor. And it said, this is a church that I can relate to. And as a community-focused church, it offers opportunities to volunteer. And in that volunteering, we get to meet people that we can make lifelong friendships with, not only in the church, but outside the church as well. But I think most importantly, it is an opportunity to show the love that Jesus wants us to show to those around us, and that was the most important part to us.
The most empowering relationship benefit I've received from churches personally as a social service leader is in the individual relationships of support and love I get from church leaders. That it is important for churches to recognize that those of us who serve in the capacities to the impoverished families, to broken families, we too need fed. And that relationship has also been really powerful for my staff and myself. Perhaps one of the most memorable experiences in my entire professional career was the invitation into the home of a family and their support of me as a person doing this work. It was an example of how their Christianity can shine through at every level of what they do, whether they're serving in a large capacity to children or to families, or they're serving in a small, momentary way to the individual that is serving those families. So there's no role too big, there's no role too small. There is always an opportunity to touch the lives of people doing this work.
A good relationship between a church and law enforcement has us sharing information, sharing needs with one another, and we find that we have a lot in common, and that there are times when you may need something, and the first thought in your mind is, I can go to that congregation because they may be able to fill this need. A perfect example for us occurred about 2 or 3 years ago when we were in dire need of space to train our law enforcement staff, and Faith Community Center had just been built, and we entered into some conversations with the management team there, ended up using that center to fulfill our training needs. But what blossomed from that was that after we got to know the people, the staff at Faith Community Center, they began to get really involved in some of our department's endeavors in terms of fish fry that we host for the local Red Cross. They're more tuned in to what we do as an agency. I believe that we have also in turn been able to provide better service to that organization in terms of safety and security of their physical facilities because we know one another. And there are many cases now where we'll have a need come up, and it might be, you know, we're talking about an after-school program in a neighborhood that's having some problems with juvenile delinquency, and immediately I can pick the telephone up and I can talk to somebody who runs youth programming and has a keen eye to being able to provide services in that area, and it again has just been a very positive relationship for us.
As we look at our community, we're always getting calls of things that people would like to do. What we're strapped for is two things. One is funds, the other is volunteers. And what the church can do is they can provide that base of volunteers for many things that our community needs, whether it's working in a soup kitchen, which you already do, but also helping with our festivals, helping with cleanup programs, lending counseling to people that want to look at finance. All the things that you traditionally do that you've played an expanded role in, we can use that in Greater Lafayette Commerce to help our community prosper.
I think the churches that are really moving are churches that aren't just being complacent, not just sticking to the, well, we've always done it this way. We've not done outreach with regard to getting new families and children into our communities, looking at unmet needs with regard to the communities, such as you know, teen pregnancy right now. 1 out of every 13 births in Tippecanoe County is to a teenager. Drug addiction issues. At our local neonatal intensive care, 25% of the children born in the neonatal intensive care are drug exposed children. So knowing what the issues are, educating yourself on what the poverty rates within the community, what schools need help and assistance with regard to mentoring programs. So I guess it's the churches that get outside of their church, look at what's in the community. And really, I think the mission of most churches is to reach out, help people, bring people within the church communities, and then give them that kind of support. So it's active ones. People are willing to try new things. People that aren't scared when you think of a juvenile delinquent or a child that's been in the system so many times.
There are all kinds of ways that churches can help schools with hurting families, and let me tell you, unfortunately there are a lot of those families. From a food pantry to providing a community center where students and families can come and take advantage of the First Friday types of programs, or just a place to play together that's safe, from a local skate park to a counseling center. Those are all things that are wonderful and enhance our community, but it's also a place where I can refer families to, and I know that they're going to be well taken care of.
I think it's a great thing when churches get involved in meeting real needs in the community. For instance, the way that we've been doing it here is a skate park that's opened up to the greater Portland area. For the last 24 years, we've had kids from all walks of life, non-church kids mostly, coming through the doors in this skate park and hearing the gospel. Kids, thousands have professed faith, and hundreds have actually, what I would say, really became Christians and become disciples. We've seen kids become missionaries, seminary professors, pastors, and it's really simple. When the church gets outside the walls, looks for a real need that needs to be met, meets it, it's an opportunity to meet students, parents. We've had the mother of one of our kids in Skate Church came to know the Lord, still writes me and is thankful for this ministry. This is a way that kids and parents can meet Christ, get biblical counseling, get discipled, and they're open to coming here.
Well, for a church to get to meeting with students and offering services to them at a very individual level, whether it be at a counselor level or at whatever individual relationship level it might be, really requires some flexibility. I think at first you have to be very practical and meet a need that exists at an institution. It may be first offering to help pick up students when they first arrive campus. It may be offering a picnic for new students when they arrive. It could be creating a type of friendship relationship with students where families are matched with students in a friendship relationship. You have to find ways that create a win-win between the institution, the needs that exist for the students, and the church. And it may take time to get to that individual level, but I know from experience if churches and an office are committed to finding ways to help students with that committed type of goal, working together, that individual relationships can be forged and outreach at a very personal level is very, very possible.
When churches call my office, I tell them we need help and we need leadership in the community because we have individuals who aren't bad people. They make a mistake, but they need some guidance. Usually that's spiritual. If people turn towards spiritual guidance, they will live a law-abiding life and they won't be in my office or in our courtrooms. Therefore, that relationship between faith-based and the legal system should be stronger. Unfortunately, over the last 30 or 40 or 50 years, these two groups have fallen apart. We need to bring them back together for the benefit of the community.
The human relations ordinance was really a hot topic within the community, and it was making divisions within the community itself, was pulling people apart. And at one of our meetings where we were going to be addressing the ordinance as it was written, which didn't seem to be agreeable to everybody. We had a pastor show up. The meeting was standing room only. I mean, wall-to-wall people. He got up, made this presentation on how he felt that you might rewrite the ordinance or make amendments to it so that it'd be workable. We went with his suggestions, added those amendments, it passed, and it has been a workable solution ever since. I think everybody's been very happy with the way that has worked. His involvement really helped seal everything.
I often get calls from local congregations, from pastors, deacons and such, who want to know how they can help us in our mission. A big part of what we do is managing and operating a county jail, 550 some inmates. We have a very robust jail ministry team that works within our facility, and often that is what congregations seek to get involved in, but we have a ministry team in place. What we are lacking in our community, and it's the same in many communities across the nation, is having the ability to reach out and minister to these folks after they leave the jail, at the front door, if you will, so that we have that safety net in place so that we don't end up dealing with the same behavior, almost a mentoring process, if you will.
One of the things that has been really successful for us is a partnership we have with a local church that helps us serve families who've experienced abuse and neglect. We work with very young parents who have had drug and alcohol problems and as a result have had their children removed from their care. We work with those families to teach them about budgeting and parenting, and the church comes along and partners with us by providing couples who mentor the parents in these families. So they're focused on how they can serve the parents and be good role models for them. And so that might involve that they invite them to their home for dinner, they invite them to their churches for activities. So it really provides a link to a sustained relationship for our families, which we don't have to provide them.
To be a part of a counseling church is a new experience for me, but it offers an opportunity to have the courage to come alongside those people that I either volunteer with or that I worship with, and it gives me the tools to work with to help people to not be afraid to ask them what's really wrong or if there's something I can help them with. And when you see others around you reaching out to other members of the church, it's just such a blessing because it just grows. It helps each one of us to be able to articulate perhaps those words of encouragement that might help others have a better day. And that is just an awesome opportunity this church provides.
I see the great need. I myself, when I was in this challenging time, losing my job, I needed a spiritual side of counseling. And I found that one with faith. I want to provide the same opportunities to other people. And I'm right now preparing myself to become a better follower of Christ in these opportunities that faith is also given. In training myself to become a better counselor with biblical principles. That to me, it is something would be very, like I would be privileged to serve the Lord that way and to join church leaders in their purpose and mission of faith.